You guys know how much I love history, and well, I was really curious to find out a little bit more about my own history, which is why I partnered with MyHeritage, the leading global family history and DNA service that lets you discover your origins, and you might even find out some new relatives. Alright boys, so I just got in the mail the kit, which comes with a step-by-step manual right inside of it. Let's open it up together. Now I have to swab this for 30 seconds on each side of my cheek. Once that's over, it's crucial that we take this cotton swab, we open the little container here, or vial, I'm not really great with words, put this in, and we break it up like this, and then basically close it up. Do one swab on one side, the other swab on the other side, then place your vials inside the biohazard bag on top of the little cotton thingy. Alright, now we're gonna close the envelope up, and now it's time to wait for the results. Alright boys, the results are here, and yes, my real life name is George, for all of you that didn't know that, now you know. Let's check out what exactly I'm made out of, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of Balkan. There you go, 66.5% Balkan, as expected, and 13.7% Greek or South Italian. No idea where that's from because I don't have any Greek or Italian in my family. Maybe from the Roman side. 7.5 Finnish. What? How? What? North African 6.4%. Okay, I have some questions now. And 5.8% various Eastern European. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, really, where is the North African from? Alright, I need to check out the full ethnicity estimate because I'm really curious here. We've got 1.6% Ashkenazi actually, 4.2% Baltic, aside from the 7.5% Finnish. There's so many unanswered questions in this DNA test. And the biggest of them all is, how? North African 6.4. I have no clue where this is coming from. We're gonna talk about this more in the video, but until then, use the link in the description to buy the DNA kit for yourself and use my code for free shipping. As an added bonus, you can start a 30-day free trial of MyHeritage's best subscription for family history research and enjoy a 50% discount if you decide to continue, so don't miss out guys. This is a unique opportunity. With every new patch for EU4, there's a lot of new additions to the game, different modifiers, different formable nations, and just overall the game changes so much. It's a completely different game sometimes between one patch and another, and that's exactly why today we'll be going over the strongest formable nations iceberg. That's right, it's an iceberg that we're doing here. You don't know what that is? Well, it's kind of like a tier list, but it's opposite. So on top of the iceberg we have the lower tier of the strongest formable nations, and as we go deeper down below the iceberg we have the actual behemoths and the strongest of the strongest, with the last one being the most overpowered nation there is. And of course on each of these levels we might have multiple countries. It really depends, so strap in boys because this is gonna be a fun video. But do take note, these are my opinions. I've been playing EU4 for probably about 10,000 hours now since it first came out, but then again my experiences have been different. So if you have your own opinions on what are the strongest formable nations and you want to share them with me, leave that in the comments. And speaking of, don't forget to leave a like. If we get 6,000 likes, I'm gonna cover the strongest playing toll nations in EU4 with the most recent patch, as well as consider subscribing. If we get 160,000 subs by the end of April, I'm gonna do a massive multiplayer with you guys, the entire community. We're gonna have close to 200 slots open, probably gonna burn a few PCs away, but it's gonna be a fun one, and we're gonna stream that on the main channel, so you guys are really gonna be able to appreciate it. And then we'll edit it down and we'll make it a proper viewable video as well, so you got both the stream and the video, I guess. Now obviously, to make things a little bit easier, I am going to use console commands so I can form the nations that I'm gonna be showing, and the first one is going to be the United Sicilies, or the Two Sicilies, not to be confused with the Three Sicilies. Yep, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? The Two Sicilies is a very special nation because it is surprisingly strong. Not the strongest, obviously, that's why it's the first on this list here, but let's check it out. We got some insane national ideas that include morale of armies, national manpower plus 20% from the get-go, so you make use of this from the moment that you form the nation. Then you get technology cost reduction, core creation cost minus 10%. Take note, not many Western nations have core creation cost reduction, so it's pretty special to see this in the game from the get-go. Well, from one of the initial nations that you can form. Take note, you do need to have admin admin tech 10 in order to form it, so you likely will form it in the 1500s. But it's nice to form the two Sicilies before forming the Italian nation, of course. It also has the same national mission tree as the Neapolitans have. But that being said, the Neapolitans slash two Sicilies have some serious permanent modifiers, as well as a lot of permanent claims on a lot of provinces around the Mediterranean. So if you want to do a Mediterranean conquest, forming the two Sicilies is definitely an option to do that conquest with. Plus, we get, for example, here mercenary discipline plus 5%, tolerance of the true faith plus 1, and this is stackable. Remember that after you form other nations, you can have a lot of national unrest reduction from the tolerance of the true faith. The last two modifiers here, ship trade power plus 15% and liberty desire from subjects development minus 15, basically means that two Sicily or whoever forms this nation has a lot of potential to become a strong trade power in the Mediterranean, as well as use a lot of subjects around the Mediterranean. And there's definitely a lot of potential subjects like the Syrians, and you get permanent claims to conquer the Palestine area, by the way, to restore the kingdom of Jerusalem and so on. Remember that Syria here has a lot of cores that you can feed them after you release them from one province, or keep them as a subject and just feed them the rest of the Middle East. The two Sicilies are going to be at the top of the iceberg here, right over with the famous EU4 playing penguins, of course. For the next nation, we're going to have to do a little bit of a shenanigan here, because we're going to have to form it as Semian. That being said, it does not actually require admin tech 10 in order to form. You literally just need to have the provinces here of Gaza, Jaffa, and Jerusalem, and it's Israel. So once you form Israel, you would be a very special, since you would likely be the only Jewish country in the world. The map color is absolutely amazing. I actually would form this just for the map color. And I'm actually curious if you guys want me to form Jerusalem, or better yet, Israel. Let me know in the comments below. I might do a Semian campaign in the future if you do. The ideas that Israel have include religious unity, which will help keeping in check the various provinces, which will likely not be Jewish when you got them. Discipline plus 5, production efficiency plus 20%. That is a huge amount, guys. Not every country actually has 20% production efficiency. This really shows that Israel has a lot of potential to be a playing toll nation, as well as an economic behemoth, and it can also hold its own when it comes to fighting, because it does have an extra morale of armies plus 10% and dev cost reduction minus 10% as well, ergo matching in very well with what I was saying before about being a good playing toll nation. Tolerance of the true faith, trade efficiency, and trade steering also is amazing for your economy. And don't forget, boys, that you have your special faith powers here, amongst which you can have an extra 10% dev cost reduction. Each of these have different bonuses: interest per annum, tech cost, the one you've already seen with the dev cost reduction, and we also have some military bonuses. The bad part is that Israel is not an easy nation to form, but once you do form it, it's gonna make for a very unique playthrough, which is why Israel is a little bit below the tip of the iceberg here, swimming with the penguins, not chilling with the penguins, I guess. Now it's time to start going into the proper strong formables, beginning with Sardinia Piedmont. Again, you need to have admin tech 10 to form this. It is a very special toothpaste color on the map, which I think is kind of similar to the Israeli color. Sardinia Piedmont has one of its major strengths in its mission tree. You guys probably know the powerhouse of the north gives you an extra 5% admin efficiency, as well as goods produced plus 10%, which is a huge amount. A lot of people try and stack up the admin efficiency plus 5% that you get from forming Sardinia Piedmont when they try to do a world conquest. It is one of the most common tactics, I would say, if you're doing a world conquest as a non-horde. You also get restoration of Union CB on France, meaning you can get a PU over the French nation with the specific mission tree. You got some special events like the Order of St. Maurice and Lazarus, restoration of Union on the two Sicilies or Naples, and until the end of the game, minus 10% Diplo annexation cost. Again, if you're doing a world conquest, you will likely, as a non-horde, try to have as much Diplo annexation cost reduction as possible, and this has the potential of bringing it up to minus 90% Diplo annexation cost if you stack up all the new stuff. There's a ton of other permanent claims around the world, like claims on Palestine, all over the Italian peninsula here, and another really cool mission is the Alpine fortifications, which basically upgrade your forts by one level in the mountain provinces around the Alps. If you stack that up with the mission that the Milanese have, you can potentially get level 6 forts in the 1500s, which is basically 300 years earlier. It's absolutely insane, and these are mountain forts, so it's pretty much impenetrable if you form, say, Sardinia Piedmont as Milan by tag switching to the Piedmontese culture. Plus, their national ideas are super strong too. They have idea cost cost reduction minus 10%, discipline and manpower in the same idea, dev cost reduction and core creation cost reduction in the same idea, goods produced modifier, and aggressive expansion impact, which is significant because let's face it, aggressive expansion is going to be a big deal, especially in the Italian high development provinces. After all we mentioned, I think it does deserve to be a little bit below Israel here, getting closer to those big tentacles underground and the flying balloon. What the F is this actually? This is below the penguins, all right? The tier is below penguin. Now up next, of course, it wouldn't be as strong as formidable nations without the Russians. The Russians also require admin tech 10 in order to form, and they bring an updated version of the mission tree. As of right now, it looks like this. With the 1.35 version, it looks a lot better and it is a ton juicier. Now the Russian ideas include national manpower core creation cost reduction, aggressive expansion reduction, the ability to colonize without colonial ideas, i.e. the Siberian frontiers. You do need to unlock the Siberian frontiers, but once that's done, you will be able to colonize all of the Siberian lands for just 20 diplo points per province. Look at that, or 19. I guess I actually have some reduction, otherwise it should be 20. You can use this strat, of course, and you can use it in the New World and basically colonize the entirety of the New World super fast. Alternatively, you can do that as a custom nation as well. The other thing that shines about the Russians is their use of the government abilities, including the ability to lower autonomy by 10 in all provinces, which is in my opinion very underrated. The ability to suppress rebels, very Russian of them, very Russian indeed. And of course, the famous Streltsy. You raise up units from the grave, essentially aliens from outer space that don't take up any area manpower. However, in the next version of this game in 1.35 update, it's gonna be changed and we're not gonna be getting the Streltsy anymore. Instead, we're gonna be getting a flat manpower recovery modifier. So this is massively nerfed, which is why this nation in particular is gonna be very affected in the next patch. But until that point, we shall place Russia below Sardinia Piedmont because it is definitely a better nation to be forming, and we are getting closer to the actual big boys of this particular video. A nation that often gets overlooked when it comes to top tier nation videos is Manchu. It can be formed by any of the Jurchen tribes, and once you do adopt a Manchu identity, one of the good parts is that it actually offers you cores on the entirety of the Manchu region. So if you check now, you don't even need to core up all of the lands in order to form Manchu. You just need to have 20 Jurchen provinces cored. The rest of the Jurchen provinces you don't need to core, and you get the cores after you form Manchu. There you go. We even got the cores on the provinces in the north and the Ming provinces as well in the Shenyang state, or sorry, Liaoning state, that is. That's not the thing that makes it amazing, obviously. It is a horde, which by itself means that it is a really powerful nation. It does also have the ability to form Qing after it takes care of the Ming Emperor and basically destroys them. But it also has insane national ideas that include morale of armies, leader shock and maintenance modifier, core creation cost minus 15 and national manpower, possible Manchu banners, cav combat ability, aggressive expansion impact, and boys, we of course have access now to the Eastern Banner Infantry, which is special units, be it infantry or be it cavalry. You recruit these guys based on how many provinces are your primary culture, and they have an extra 5% discipline. They're 50% cheaper to maintain, and they only take up 25% of your manpower. So that means 1,000 Manchu soldiers in one regiment only take up 250 manpower. So you're not losing 1,000 manpower. When you lose a regiment, you're only losing 250. It's weird as schnaps. It is the only unit in the game that has this sort of modifier as of now, and it is absolutely powerful. But take note, it also has reinforcement speed increased by 50%. So if you're doing a fast wall conquest, it might not be the best unit to use as it has a pretty slow reinforcement rate. But if you're not doing a world conquest and you're doing a casual game, it is a really powerful unit to have. Especially for multiplayers, it's a pretty strong unit, let's say. That's why I believe Manchu deserves a spot right below the Russians here, and right next to the destroyed ships and the tentacles of the Kraken that apparently lives underneath this particular iceberg. Every iceberg has a Kraken, right? That's just how it goes. Next, we have a nation that I know for sure will surprise you. I'm talking about Ayutthaya. No, I'm not talking about Ayutthaya. It's not a formable nation, but they can form Siam. Now, normally Siam is formed via your mission tree as Ayutthaya once you have the royal absolutism mission enacted, but that requires that you have absolutism around, which means it's formable in the 1600s. However, if you watched my Ayutthaya video, then you know there's a faster approach to it, and I'll link my video video in the description if you're curious. Basically, you have to make sure you have more Lao primary culture, full states, and then you can culture shift to Lao culture, and then as Lao, you can restore Lanshang, and then as Lanshang, you can form Siam, and you can basically do this in 1450. I think my record was 1453 or some schnaps on live stream. So within the first 10 years, you can form Siam 200 years faster than you are meant to form Siam, which is also why these national ideas that Siam have are insanely strong, because they're kind of tailored for the late game. But seeing as you can get these ideas super early on in the campaign, it just makes it so much more powerful, right? Now I'm talking about morale of armies plus 10, national manpower plus 30%, that is huge, and discipline. Then we get idea cost minus 10%, cav fire, and cav combat ability. Dude, the cav fire plus 1 essentially means that you have the strongest cavalry units in the game, and if you want, you can also become a horde and keep the Siamese ideas once you form Tibet, because you can become a horde via the Tibetan mission tree, but you keep the Siamese national ideas, and then as a horde with cav armies and with the plus 1 cav fire from these ideas, you basically are the strongest nation in the game by far. There's no competitor. When it comes to national ideas, by far, in my opinion, Siam has the best ideas, because you also get Diplo reputation plus 2, not 1, dev cost minus 10%, Diplo annexation cost minus 20%, tech cost minus 10. I'm out of breath right now. Yes, I know I'm out of breath. You also get absolutism and legitimacy. The point is that Siam is a super freaking strong nation, and I just realized this is the third nation on my list that has toothpaste color. What is up with toothpaste color nations, PDX? Actually, I'm curious now. What is up with this? But yeah, you also have the Siamese mission tree, which is the same as the Ayutthaya mission tree. It is pretty decent. It's not bad overall. You can take the mandate, defy China, and get a permanent claim on the entirety of the Chinese subcontinent and so on. Siam has a really great position overall. It allows you to easily expand into the Malaccan rich trade node, which by the way has the potential to be the best trade node in the game, even better than the English Channel if you know what you're doing. You also have quick access into the Indian nodes and the Indian subcontinent overall, as well as, of course, you can go into the horde lands if you're going to become a horde via the Tibetan strat, and then just munch in and conquer the rest of the world fairly easy. That's why I'm going to put Siam over here right below Manchu and getting very closer to the target. Why is there even a target here? And why is there a dinosaur? What is up with this iceberg, man? You probably expected it, but it would not really be a EU4 Ludi video without having Prussia on this list. And that's right, boys. We are talking about the famous Brandenburg into Prussia nation now. You need admin tech 10. You need to own Danzig or Stolp as well as Königsberg as Brandenburg. And once you do form it, you get the amazing Prussian national ideas. Remember, you also have to be a Protestant, but you can do it as Hussite Protestants, Reformed, or Anglicans. The Prussian ideas are famous for being one of the best idea sets when it comes to military ideas. Includes a discipline, army tradition, aggressive expansion impact, which is amazing because you will be, as the Prussians, expanding aggressively, let's say. Tolerance of the true faith and stab cost reduction. Again, army tradition decay minus 1%. This is a huge deal because it essentially means this with the other idea for army tradition in the long run will ensure that you will always have 100 army tradition. There's going to be no decay for your nation. You will be able to keep it at 100%. There's a few more things involved in that from the mission trees and so on, but the point is that it will make Prussia super great because army tradition also gives out morale of armies, siege ability, militarization of state as well, because we do have access to the militarization mechanics, which once you invest some of your military points in, will give you a discipline up to plus 10, manpower recovery speed plus 20%, and land maintenance minus 20%, making cheaper troops. You also get an extra 20% for morale of armies from your national ideas, infantry combat ability plus 20%, national manpower plus 25, and recruitment time reduction, as well as development cost minus 5%, and some tolerance for those heretics out there. Another thing that makes the Prussians shine is their mission tree, which offers an extra 5% admin efficiency, as well as governing capacity plus 10%. You have a lot of modifiers here stuck to certain events like the Edict of Potsdam event, the Prussian legal system, and so on, that also will make your armies a little bit better, as well as, again, empowering Junkers gives yearly army tradition decay minus 1. So you will be getting 100 army tradition at all times. The mission tree itself also offers a lot of claims around the HRE, essentially making it for an easy conquest of the HRE. Take note though, if you form Prussia as the Teutonic Order, it's a completely different nation with a completely different mission tree. So that's why, despite being one of my favorite nations, Brandenburg into Prussia is not as strong as some of the other contenders here, so I'm gonna put it on the same level as Russia. It does also get 50% governing capacity modifier, which is a problem in my opinion, so that's why I love Prussia, formed by Brandenburg, but I know it's not the strongest out there anymore. It's not even close to it. It does have super good military ideas, and if you're playing in a multiplayer, of course Prussia is going to be able to hold its own, but it will likely be crushed by a coalition of neighbors or not be able to stand up to some of the amazing mission trees and flavor that have been added with the Lions of the North DLC, for example, or other DLC, since Brandenburg into Prussia is getting a little bit of a revamp in 135, so let's see how it goes after that's coming out, right? Next up is a nation that is a little bit more obscure. Not many people know you can even form this, but yes, you can, as the Burgundians, as long as you fulfill certain prerequisites and you manage to snake your way to the crown of Lothair here, which is done around the 1500s. You will get the Lothair's Legacy event, which allows you to change over to Lotharingia, a special nation which increases the size of your mission tree as well. So this is the Burgundian default mission tree with some added missions on top of that give until the end of the game again admin efficiency plus 5%, making a lot easier world conquests, of course, in the process, as well as max promoted cultures plus 2, idea cost minus 5% until the end of the game, and institution spread, a few claims or personal union CBs around the world, and so on. But the thing that makes it shine is, of course, the Lotharingian ideas that include infantry combat ability, national manpower modifier, aggressive expansion impact, prestige decay, morale of armies, trade efficiency, idea cost, and core creation cost minus 20 freaking percent. This is huge, especially for its particular position, pretty much in the smack middle of Western Europe here. The map color is also amazing. I personally really like the flag as well, and the roleplay that comes alongside the Burgundians. The position itself allows for both going into the colonies if you want to, establishing a massive colonial empire. You also have prime real estate when it comes to the English Channel node, meaning that should you wish to, you can basically get all of the English Channel node and become filthy rich in the process. I strongly suspect that with the Angevin Empire mission path that the English have in the Domination DLC, it might be a little bit of a struggle, or maybe a head-to-head between Lotharingia and the Angevin Empire that the English will form, but that remains to be seen, of course. I strongly recommend you guys try out Lotharingia. I have a video where we go from Burgundy into Lotharingia, and I'll link that in the description as well. It was probably one of my most fun and most enjoyable campaigns overall, and I want to spread a little bit of love and knowledge about this particular nation, to be honest, since it is very well deserved. That being said, Lotharingia is going to be on the same level as Manchu for the time being. Maybe if we see some other improvements in the future, it will go a little bit deeper down in this fiery depth of an iceberg. That doesn't even make sense, does it? Fiery depth of an iceberg. What am I doing here? Of course, we will not be leaving out the Mughals from this video, because let's face it, the Mughals are everybody's favorite formable if they're going for a world conquest, or they just enjoy a lot of unique flavor in the game. What makes the Mughals so special is a couple of things. They have their own unique achievement if you start off as one of the vassals of the Timurids and you form it and you conquer the entirety of India before 1550. I've got a video on that as well in the description. But aside from the achievement, they have the unique assimilation mechanic that comes alongside the Mughal D1 here, which allows you to assimilate cultures into your administration. It also offers some governing capacity and so on. But here's how this works. Essentially, the more cultures you integrate into your administration by owning every single province of that particular culture, you get special bonuses. So here, for example, for having Hindustani, we get minus 10% core creation cost. So if, say, we integrate all of these bad boys here, and through the power of magic, we just did it, we have the Hindavi assimilated into our government, Adavi as well, and the Vendinia. Basically, there's two things to it. First off, all of these cultures will be accepted as our primary culture, so we're not getting any debuff from owning these provinces. And after we got the rest of the Hindustani, now we are actually getting the core creation cost reduction minus 10%. Forming Mughals is also fairly easy. You just need to have a couple of provinces in this particular area, as well as you need to make a full state out of the Delhi state, or better yet, the upper Doab state. Now, aside from the assimilation mechanic, we also have insanely good national ideas for world conquest and for warfare that include tech cost reduction, core creation cost minus 25 from the get-go, meaning once you have Hindustani as well fully incorporated, you're getting minus 35% core creation cost. So if you're gonna go for your first idea admin, you're basically getting minus 60% core creation cost reduction from the very early part of the campaign, as well as you can upgrade the monument in Varadkar Chasi, convert to Hindu, of course, and you get an extra minus 10%, meaning you get minus 70% for creation cost reduction. And you can technically do this by 1467, 1470 if you really want to rush it and you're gonna do a little bit of nation ruining and stuff. Oh, I actually forgot, we also have the land acquisition that gives another 5% core creation cost reduction. But if you're gonna go Hindu for the monument, you're gonna lose that, I guess. You can still keep the Mughal Diwan with your assimilation mechanics though, even if you go Hindu, so keep that in mind. Or any religion for that matter. There you go, I just switched over to Catholic to illustrate that you still keep the Mughal Diwan. You will have to replace the first tier though. Now, as you can probably imagine, this is a very strong nation, which is why Mughals has a special tier right below Siam, getting very, very close to the fiery depths here of the iceberg abyss. I'm just making this more awkward by the minute, aren't I? Next on the list, we obviously have Yuan, the Great Yuan themselves. It can be formed after you've conquered a lot of land. Most likeliest candidate for that is going to be Oirats on your way towards achievement of world conquest. There are people out there that have done a world conquest as the Oirats in 50 years using certain exploits, but even without exploits and just a proper run, they've done it in less than 100 years, and I have a lot of respect for those people. It's not easy. It takes a lot of days to do it. It takes a lot of months, maybe in some cases, right, to do it. And one of those steps towards achieving one of those world conquests is forming Yuan here. A few things happen once you do form Yuan. First off, you change your capital to Beijing. You gain permanent claims on the entirety of the Chinese subcontinent and other parts of Asia. And most importantly, if you see over there, the Sino-Altaic become your primary culture. What does that mean? Well, let's click it and let's see what that means. That means that if you go to our culture map mode, Sino-Altaic is a new culture. We've changed the Mongolian culture into Sino-Altaic, and it was added to the greater Chinese culture group, essentially making all Chinese cultures accepted cultures as they are a part of the primary culture group that we have, meaning we suffer less from rebellions in the Chinese lands as we're all one big happy Chinese family, I guess. I don't know. That being said, oh my god, look at this. Sino-Korean, Sino-Tibetan, Sino-Vietnamese. You know what that means? It means that we have the ability to get the Vietnamese, the Koreans, and the Tibetans converted to the same Sino greater group, whatever it's called. Now take note, you also have this really interesting mission tree here that offers permanent claims on most of the Middle East parts, on the Polish region also, as well as until the end of the game province war score cost, which is a huge deal because mix this in with the Diplo ideas, war score cost reduction, as well as the monument here and the Malta forts and a few other modifiers. You can really stack that up, and you can basically, with the admin efficiency and everything, annex half of Asia in one war if you really wanted to. Not really half, but close to half of Asia really in one war, which is a huge deal. You get permanent claims on Ruthenia, Russia also, Persia, Khorasan, Pontic steppes, the entirety of the Japanese region, and with the Pax Mongolia, you get national unrest -3 until the end of the game. Speaking of Pax Mongolia, in order to restore the Mongol Empire, you just need a few more provinces here, and by a few provinces, I really mean a lot of provinces. Hey, you can also restore the Ilkhanates if you want here, which I guess kind of counts as a formable country, really. But no, we're gonna be going for the Mongol Empire, which is the ultimate horde because it has the greatest horde tier 1 government reform, the Great Mongol State that offers manpower, horde unity, years of separatism reduction, movement speed plus 20%, capped infantry ratio, looting speed plus 50%, and force limit plus 20%. It is an absolutely insanely powerful tier 1 government reform. You do keep the Yuan ideas, which is why I'm putting Yuan and the Great Mongol State on the same level here. But again, I just realized this is pretty much a toothpaste color map mode. What is up with the toothpaste map colors, man? For real. You can also form the Mongol Empire as the Teutonic Knights, but until we get to that point, I'm gonna be adding Yuan/Mongol State on the same level here, right below the Mughals, and I'm adding them both on the same tier and as the same nation, because if you form Yuan, likely you will form the Mongol State, and there's not much of a difference between the two except the fact that the Mongol State is an upgraded version of Yuan that includes the extra government reform for tier 1. There's also a lot of nations in EU4 that not many people are aware of, can be formed pretty much via the mission tree. One of these nations is, for example, the nation of Aksum. You will be able to get this once you've surpassed the past as the Ethiopians. It is is not easy to do. You can rush it though. The hardest part is the government reforms, but you can easily get the government reforms with the extra points that you get from your mission tree. And speaking of the mission tree, this is one of the most fleshed out and most insane mission trees added with the Origins DLC. It offers a lot of government reform points, permanent claims, permanent modifiers, development to your provinces, and a lot of unique bonuses. And once you've gotten this done, you change over to Axum, get the new traditions and ambitions, and the Axumite national ideas are insane, my boys. We got discipline, governing capacity plus 15, national manpower plus 25, aggressive expansion impact, war score versus other religions, tech cost, institution spread, and trade efficiency. Now take note, these might not be the most impressive national ideas, but combine those national ideas with the mission tree, with the location, because you have super fast access to the gold mines in Mutapa Kilwa, as well as you start with a few gold mines yourself here. You got one in Damot, one in Kafa right next to you that you can conquer from the beginning. Damot's actually one of your starting vassals, really. Plus, expansion wise, it is really easy to dodge in between aggressive expansion from the Egyptian parts as well as from the southern bits, and you can also go colonial if you want. There's so many possibilities as Axum. Take note, I'm talking about the Ethiopia into Axum version, because you can also form Axum as a non-Ethiopian nation a lot faster, actually, because you don't need to do it from the mission tree. Kind of similar to the Siam situation, really. Now, of course, Axum is not absolutely insanely overpowered, but it definitely deserves a spot right next to the Prussians and the Russians, in my particular opinion. Considering that the Alliance of the North DLC made Scandinavia quite strong, of course I'm gonna have Scandinavia on this list as well. It can be formed by Sweden, Norway, Denmark, or really anybody else that culture converts if they really want to. And based on who you form it as, you get different national missions and national ideas. So it's kind of like different countries with the same name, really. But let's say we form it as the Swedes here. You can do it either from having Admin Tech 20, or you can do it a little bit faster if, as you can read here, you complete the mission that unbinds the requirements to form Scandinavia from the admin tech. So basically you can form Scandinavia a lot faster if you complete your mission tree, go down this bad boy here, which is insanely huge. But for the purposes of this video, we just gave ourselves admin tech 20. Now Scandinavia unlocks for the Swedes a much grander mission tree. Look how absolutely thick this thing is. So we have the early part that focuses on your independence from the Danes. You get to expand your army, expand your administration, become a big boy in the middle part, and then towards the end is just absolutely disgustingly, dirtily, amazingly overpowered, because they really did make Scandinavia super overpowered in my opinion. But I love it, you know. It's nothing that shouldn't be the case in the mid to late game. When you will be overpowered anyway, you might as well be overpowered and have a lot of fun in the process, right? Now the Scandinavian ideas as the Swedes give you discipline, goods produced plus 15, and national manpower plus 20%. Just that right there, ooh la la, is insanely good. I love these new national ideas for real. You also get construction cost reduction, global possible number of buildings, meaning you don't need to destroy any of those churches you might have built earlier in the campaign to make way for actual proper good buildings. Admin efficiency plus 5%, as well as possible policies plus 1. You also have cavalry fire 0.5 and cavalry cost reduction. Remember the cav fire plus 1 from Siam, which is insanely powerful. Well, this is half of that, what that is, but you also get other amazing ideas alongside it, right? Like morale of navies plus 20, trade efficiency, infantry combat ability plus 20%, as well as absolutism and max absolutism plus 10. It is just insanely well done, this particular nation, as well as this particular mission tree here. I mean, just look at this mission here. The Emperor of the Germans. Literally get permanent claims on the entirety of Germany. Governing capacity plus 15 permanently, and power projection plus 25 permanently. And the best part is that a lot of these other adjacent missions here allow you to get the specific flavor that Norway, Denmark had if you chose to start as Norway or Denmark. So even though you form it as Sweden, you still get some of the stuff that the other nations had previously in their particular mission tree. So you're not really missing out on too much from that particular perspective. It's funny because prior to Alliance of the North, Scandinavia was one of the worst nations in the game. It was absolutely trash, but now it's one of my favorite nations. That's why it goes right up there with Siam. We are going to be mentioning, of course, the Commonwealth also. The Commonwealth is either the Polish Lithuanian Commonwealth or the Lithuanian-Polish Commonwealth based on who you form it as. And based on who you form it as, you get different missions and different flavor and national ideas, so keep that in mind. Now, we did the one as the Poles, of course, so we get the PLC ideas. Otherwise, we would get the LPC ideas. Now, these bad boys give us promoted cultures, heretical tolerance, goods produced plus 10, idea cost, cav compatibility, and the ability to recruit winged hussars, one of the strongest units in the game itself. Infantry compatibility plus 15%, discipline plus 5, and monthly admin power plus 1 flat, together with yearly army tradition plus 1, and an expanded mission tree. Put that together with this particular mission tree here that basically allows you to conquer pretty much the entirety of Central and Eastern Europe early on in the campaign as the Poles, and then just make the most out of it with some unique modifiers and estates. It really makes the Commonwealth a worthwhile country to be playing as, and I am going to put them alongside Axum, Prussia, and Russia. Obviously, we also want to have on our list the famous Al-Andalus, one of the strongest overall military powers in EU4. You really are going to be scared if you see Al-Andalus formed in a multiplayer. That is a guarantee. Al-Andalus has some good missions as well, alongside amazing national ideas that include fire damage received minus 15, core creation cost and manpower, morale of armies, ship trade power, goods produced modifier, colonists, idea cost reduction minus 10%. And the best part is, guys, that as Andalus, you can both be a strong military power, and as you saw earlier, you get some colonists and so on. So you can really colonize the new world, get all your strength from the new world, take over Iberia, take over North Africa, go for the rich mines in the sub-Saharan parts. And let's not forget, you do have one of the best flags and map color in the game. So if you haven't formed Al-Andalus yet, you're definitely missing out, my boy. I am going to be putting Al-Andalus right next to Sardinia, Piedmont. I am a little bit torn though. I feel like I should put it next to Prussia, Russia, but at the same time, Prussia, Russia does have some extra stuff that Al-Andalus doesn't, and I've already put way too many countries on the same tier, so I feel like I should put more countries on different tiers, really. You also probably expected Hanover to be on this list. Hanover is a not so well-known nation, but if you do play multiplayer, you definitely know what is up with Hanover. Hanover is a unique nation because it's also one of the few nations that has green when you form it, you know, that non-toothpaste color that exists. Just saying, maybe add more of those. But aside from that, boys, Hanover has pretty decent military as well as economic ideas, as it has construction costs, trade power abroad, discipline plus 5, fire damage and maintenance in the same idea, dev cost minus 10, state maintenance to make it a little bit cheaper to maintain your states, goods produced plus 10, and fire damage received minus 15%, right up there with the Al-Andalusian fire damage received bonus pretty much. They have a small little bit of mission tree as well. It's nothing amazing, nothing major, but you do have the option of getting the restoration of union over England or Great Britain if they form Great Britain, which is, you know, not everybody gets to get a personal union over Great Britain, do they? As well as until the end of the game, you can get national unrest and max promoted cultures. This is something you can stack up, and if you do form Hanover, it is one of those nations that will be a mid-tier nation before you form another nation, realistically speaking. That's why Hanover makes its way as the third nation next to Sardinia, Piedmont, and Al-Andalus. Eventually, as Hanover, you could say form Germany, and then we have some of the big boys in the house, guys, because first off, look at that amazing map color. I have to say, I absolutely love the German map color. It is the best in the game. Aside from that, Germany is a really good nation. Probably some of my favorite national ideas. Infantry compatibility, diplo relations, tech cost minus 10, discipline plus 5, trade efficiency, goods produced plus 20%, admin efficiency, and yearly army tradition. So really, the ideas for Imperial Germany are amazing. They're well balanced, and especially for the late game, if you're going for an economic strong and military strong game, Imperial German ideas are yours, my boys. That being said, you also have the Imperial German mission as well as yet another admin efficiency plus 5. So you guessed it, you likely will be able to get admin efficiency plus 5 from a lot of mission trees by forming those particular nations, most of which are already in this video as it is. I am going to be putting Germany next to Manchu and Lotharingia. Now, don't get me wrong, of course, this is a little bit of my own bias here, but I am putting him here because likely you will form Germany as either Hanover or Prussia. So you get the bonuses from Prussia, Hanover, and you get to keep the extra bonuses from Germany. You can even keep the national ideas if you want, Prussian ideas or Hanoverian ones also. So there's that as well. It's basically one of the later tier nations, to be fair. Now, of course, this this video has to have a strongest of them all, doesn't it? And there is a nation that fills those shoes. Of course, it is going to be Austria. No, I'm kidding. It's not Austria. It's actually the Holy Roman Empire. Regardless of who you form the Holy Roman Empire as, the HRE itself as a united entity is by far one of the most insane nations you can form in this game. Take note, in order to reach the last centralization reform of the HRE, it will take a while. It is a little bit RNG, of course, but it is 100% worthwhile, because look at all the bonuses that you get here. Construction cost reduction, dev cost reduction, diplomats, diplo reputation, state maintenance, and ability to declare on non-HRE nations to make them join the HRE, tax flat amount based on how many princes you have, mercenary recruitment cost minus 25%, tech cost reduction, prestige, institution spread, quirk creation cost reduction, imperial authority growth, and the best part is that once you click revoke the privilege, every single body that is in the HRE will become your subject, and it doesn't even take up diplo relation slots. So right now, if we were to judge by 1444 borders, that would be how many nations? That would be 58 princes, 12 free cities, 7 electors, and 3 ground virgins trapped in a bat cave. But realistically speaking, once you do click that button, you're likely gonna have 100+ nations in the HRE, all of which are gonna become your subjects, your vassals, without you having to spend diplo relation points on that. The best part is that once you click Renovatio Imperii, boom shakalaka, everybody that is your subject will get integrated and you actually become a proper country. You don't need to waste time integrating all of these subjects, and you also inherit their armies, you inherit their fleets, and honestly just an absolutely amazing map color for that matter. Plus you get the Rome Reborn modifier, meaning you keep all of the bonuses with this modifier. All the bonuses you had from the reforms are here. So essentially you're not losing the bonuses from the reforms, because the Rome Reborn, which is available until the end of the game, modifier is going to stay with your nation. Plus you get the same mission tree as the Imperial Germans get, with a few differences at the bottom here. This is different from the Imperial German path. You get claims on Palestine, you get crown by the Pope event, state maintenance and autonomy change cooldown until the end of the game. So if you have not formed the HRE, definitely do it. It is super insanely powerful, and that's why I'm putting the Holy Roman Empire on this lowest tier. Now I know what you're wondering, Ludi, but there's one more tier below this, bro. What is going on here? What secret amazing nation do you have for us that you haven't revealed yet? Well, boys, you're gonna be shocked about this one, but there is one nation that we have that I think we've all forgotten about. Before we talk about that nation, I know there's a lot of other formables that are insanely powerful, like Rajputana and other ones. This video has been dragging on for a long time. Honestly, I don't want to keep you here for 1 hour and a half so I can talk about all the formables, because I do love a lot of nations. So if there is another nation that was in and I didn't mention it, I apologize. Let me know in the comment section how wrong I am. And for the final contender, boys, this is the friends we made along the way, boys. That's it. Because no matter what, we are a very small community, and whether some of you hate me, some of you love me, I want you guys to know that I love every single one of you, and I want you to know that you're special, because not everybody spends 10 to 12 hours watching a color on a screen expand and gets super excited about it. It just takes a special kind of person, and I'm glad to be a part of that community. So if you guys enjoyed this video, check out this amazing video up next. And I want to give a massive thank you to all of my patrons, channel members, and Twitch subscribers. I would not be able to do this without all your support.